Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want. Thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at the quintessential dive reference from Breitling of Solothurn, and this is the Breitling Superocean 44mm stainless steel automatic reference A17391. Now, the first Breitling Superocean reference bowed in 1957, part of that golden era of dive watches along with the Rolex Submariner and the Omega Seamaster Professional. The Breitling Superocean was Breitling's standard bearer, updated through the years, kept competitive, kept current, aesthetically and mechanically enhanced. It culminated in a 2011 reboot of the entire model line that brought us the latest Superocean and Superocean 2 references. What we're looking at right here is the Superocean 44mm in stainless steel. Generally a brushed and polished look. It's a little bit more subdued and blends a little bit more contrast than the typical big bling Breitling of the present day. So visually, right out of the gate, you're talking about a watch that's just a bit more interesting, just a bit more nuanced. Let's put it on the wrist and talk about proportions, talk about fit and feel. You can see it's got a hacking movement, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but let's start her up. The bottom line is, at 44mm, it could have fooled me. The watch definitely has the wrist presence of a 44, but in terms of how it wears, it does not feel like a 44mm watch. Now, when I think of a 44, I think of big boys, like something like the original Hublot Big Bang, the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore 44mm case. And compared to this Breitling Superocean, those are hulking behemoths. This wears compact, it wears handsome. Like a true tool watch, it's as big as it needs to be, but not excessively so. It's also about 17mm thick, but again, it doesn't feel it and it doesn't look it. The watch doesn't have an unnecessarily high profile. There's really no element of flamboyance to this watch, just a pleasant amount of contrast, outstanding legibility, and a classic utility watch aesthetic. There's very little fluff here, there's very little that's done just for the sake of being, shall we say, extrovert. There's nothing about this watch that says Kardashian to me. This is not one for your entourage. This is a watch for good times. This is a watch for the beach. This is a watch that's versatile in terms of the different kinds of suits, bathing suits or business suits that you might want to wear with it. But it's got a pleasing sobriety and understatement to it that's rare and a wonderful thing in the modern Breitling line. Now, the fit, as I stated earlier, is very comfortable. It sits nicely. Like all dive watches with broad lugs and a large crown guard, it kind of distributes its mass evenly. I don't feel any hot spots, although it does have a bit of a bulbous case back. It actually winds up nestling on my wrist rather than digging into it. And even with the crown partially displaced and unscrewed so I could manipulate the functions for you, there's no tendency of it to dig into my wrist. Even when I kind of hyperextend my hand backwards, I don't really see this being any kind of an issue. This is not going to be an uncomfortable watch even when you're hot, even when you're sweaty. Beautifully done, an ergonomic and aesthetic triumph. Now, the dial of the watch is a real highlight because the dial really is the heart and soul of any dive watch. More than any other class of watch, the dial really is the acid test of a dive watch's overall quality. It has to have a pleasant appearance. It has to show some deference to history because the dive watch class is just steeped in it. And at the same time, it's got that essential tool quality to it. It has to have utility. It has to be legible, extraordinarily so, in the light and in the dark. Now, moving inboard from the unidirectional rotating bezel itself, a matte anodized finish with metallic numerals and indices, you see there's a little bit of a step down, a rehaut that's a railroad track calibration, unexpected on a contemporary dive watch, but very well done. It prevents the jump basically from the inner bezel to the dial base from being too sheer, too abrupt. It steps down nicely and it adds a good amount of visual interest, and for the sake of precision, being able to trace the sweep seconds hand along that 60-minute calibration is pretty useful. I'm also going to say that Breitling deserves a major shout out for the beautiful applied indices and numerals. They're large, they're diamond polished, beautifully finished, and the loom is very generous. This watch, hands, indices, and even the seconds hand, they absolutely glow like a torch at night. This watch has an excellent loom shot on our website. Give us a day or two to get it up. You're going to be very pleased by what you see. When this one glows, it doesn't just glow, it glows like a full moon. A beautiful sight, day or night. The Breitling Superocean 44 is really the quintessential Breitling sports watch, but also one of the best generally within the market. Now, the watch has a 2,000 meter dive rating. I'm going to go over a little bit of the features of this and what makes it an exceptional dive rating and an exceptional value within the dive class. 2,000 meters, that's over 6,600 feet. It's more than you're ever going to need, but I like to say that it's good to have that buffer when you're buying a sports watch, especially a rugged, rough and tumble sports watch, because while a modern movement with synthetic lubricants can go 5 years between service, generally the seals and watertight integrity of a watch, even an aggressive dive watch, are going to degrade faster than the lubricants break down within the movement. So you could actually wind up, if you have something that's 100 or 300 meter rated, you could wind up compromising the watertight integrity of that sealing long before the watch is due for a routine overhaul. So to have something that's rated to 500, 1,000, 2,000 meters, that ensures that if you are wearing this watch when you go off the high dive, fall off a jet ski, plunge your wrist into a bucket of cold water while washing the car, or wear it in the shower and it gets hit by the water jets, you've got that extra buffer and extra element of security for your high dollar luxury watch. Security equates to peace of mind. Likewise, there is a helium escape valve on the case flank. If you do need a watch for use with exotic oxygen mixtures, if perchance you do ever use a dive bell, the bottom line is Breitling's got your back. A 3 ATM differential between the interior and the exterior will open that little bad boy and let the helium that might build up during a dive out of the case so you don't pop the crystal. It's not something everyone's going to need. It's probably something most people will not need, but it's a great element of added value. It does have to be engineered. It does have to be incorporated. Breitling executes it beautifully, seamlessly. As you can see from the front, it doesn't break up the profile of the watch. There's no appurtenance or appendage sticking out at 9 o'clock. Discreet, it's a great talking point. It's just fun to have. More performance than you need. That's what luxury is all about. Now, the watch also features a high visibility orange sweep seconds hand that is part of the ISO 6425 dive watch definition, and some watches have a small, quote, movement operation indicator, a very small second subdial or a little flashing indication with a moving shape on a subdial. I prefer a traditional center mounted sweep seconds, and with this one in a high glow, basically a high visibility day glow orange, it's going to be visible even in declining light. I think Breitling chose wisely to incorporate a full sweep seconds hand and individually illuminate it with a little triangle of Loom at the end. That's effective day or night. It's practical in all cases, but if you're going to have a constant seconds indicator to show that the movement's operating, make it as visible as possible. Cheers to Breitling for that. Unidirectional bezel, another important part of a dive watch. It has to have just enough resistance, just enough detent as it turns to feel solid and to inspire confidence, but not so much that you can't move it when your hand is actually wet, sweaty, or wearing a glove. And Breitling strikes a nice balance. You can hear this one has a nice, rich ratcheting sound to it, very crisp. It's also got a wonderfully chunky knurling at the edge that makes it a treat to feel with your fingers when you're not wearing a glove and gives you excellent purchase. It really does dig into the skin and get a great grip. Fantastic functionality, very visible, and because it is a matte PVD, it's a nice complement to the matte finish of the black dial. I like the little splashes of color in that functional seconds hand, the Superocean script at 6 o'clock, and the frame of the date window. It's a little bit of a nod and a wink, an acknowledgement that after all, in the modern era, this is supposed to be a fun watch, not just a utility watch. It's probably less likely to be life-saving gear than it is to be a valued companion, a fun piece of your ensemble, just the kind of thing you want to throw on before a day at the beach, before a day at the pool, something that's to be associated with good times. The bottom line is that this 100% complete Breitling Superocean 44 stainless steel automatic with COSC rated Breitling caliber 17, that's ETA 2824 base movement, is an outstanding value. It could be your only watch. On a different strap, it could even be more subdued than it is, although I happen to like this rubberized leather setup, a Breitling OEM strap with a classical pin buckle. I think it's versatile, I think it's fun, I think it's in keeping with the spirit of the watch, and with summer just around the corner, it's hands down the one I would keep on this Breitling Superocean. But between a high-quality, automatic, robust, and versatile movement, a gorgeous, versatile aesthetic subdued with just enough of a sense of fun and joy to keep the watch upbeat, to keep the watch lively, to keep the watch in sync with spring and summer, I would say that if all of the above sounds good to you, this Breitling Superocean 44mm stainless steel automatic would be the watch you want.